Secretary General, welcome to the program from Brussels.
Thank you so much for having me, Christian.
So look, this is an important day, and I just want to get your first reaction. You know, the European Commission President has said, it's a new day, we're ready to engage with our oldest and most trusted ally, the United States. President Biden has said we want to repair alliances, meet the challenges of the future. He's already gone back into the Climate Accord, the Paris Accords, and to the WHO. Can you tell me just how you're feeling about this new chapter in the transatlantic relationship?
I have a very good feeling because this is really a new chapter, and President Biden has so clearly stated that he wants to rebuild alliances. I know Joe Biden as a strong supporter of NATO, the transatlantic bond. So I'm looking forward to working with him and looking forward to welcoming him to the NATO summit in Brussels later this year.
So look, I need to ask you, because you were really diplomatic throughout the 4 years of the Trump administration. So I kind of want to ask you how difficult it was to keep that NATO alliance on the straight and narrow, and how difficult it was sort of with the unpredictability of President Trump, who always claimed that he was the one that basically forced you and the other partners to up their contributions. What was it like dealing with that, and do you accept that? Was that something President Trump got you to do?
There's no denying that at times it was tough and challenging. And I had some difficult discussions with President Trump on issues ranging from arms control, Russia, to defense spending. But what we achieved was to keep this alliance together, to maintain NATO as a strong alliance. And that's not least because of the very strong bipartisan support in the United States for NATO. I saw that myself when I delivered a speech to the Congress, and NATO is a unique platform bringing together North America and Europe. And now I know that we need to rebuild some trust. And I know that President Biden is really going to invest in strengthening the transatlantic bond.
Let me just ask you this before we talk about specific issues. You just mentioned Russia and that, but Charles Michel said yesterday, "We have our differences and they will not magically disappear. America seems to have changed, and how it's perceived in Europe and the rest of the world has also changed." What do you think he means specifically in terms of alliances and what might be achieved in a Biden administration?
There will be differences. We are 30 different allies from both sides of the Atlantic with different history, with different political leaders. But NATO is unique in a way that that is the only organization that brings together Canada, United States, and 28 European NATO allies. Every day we sit around the same table. And therefore we have been able to manage and tackle differences before and always unite around our core task. I don't believe in America alone, as I don't believe in Europe alone. I believe in America and Europe together, addressing all the very difficult tasks and challenges we face with the security implications of the rise of China, persistent terrorist threats, cyber, and of course also a more assertive Russia being responsible for aggressive actions against, for instance, Ukraine. We can manage, we can tackle, we can address all these challenges as long as we stand together, America and Europe, as we do in NATO.
One of the things that President Biden has said when he was campaigning and since he won the election is that he wants to try to get back into a nuclear deal with Iran. And Iran seems to have said that it wants to as well. And on her first day as press secretary, Jen Psaki from the White House said the following about this issue.
The president has made clear that he believes that through follow-on diplomacy, the United States should seek to lengthen and strengthen nuclear constraints on Iran and address other issues of concern.
So how important, I know you have said that you think it's important to get back into this nuclear agreement or arrangement with Iran, the one that Trump pulled the US out of. What are you hoping will happen over the next few weeks and months?
I think we all should support efforts to be able to re-establish an agreement which is limiting, restricting Iran's development of nuclear weapons, because all allies are extremely concerned about the prospect of Iran being able to produce, develop nuclear weapons, especially combined with the fact that they're also developing more and more advanced missiles that can reach more and more of European NATO territory. So the combination of missiles with their nuclear program is dangerous and has to be stopped in one way or another.
Can I ask you just to comment, though, on what do you think was the effect of the US pulling out of this for 4 years? Because, you know, there's a divided country in the United States. There are many in the US who think that there should never have been this deal and that Trump did the right thing pulling the US out. Did it make the US and the world more or less secure over the last 4 years?
NATO allies welcomed the nuclear deal back in 2015, and NATO allies regretted, the European NATO allies and also Canada, they didn't support the US withdrawal because they don't believe, and I agree with them, that that does not make or didn't make the world a safer place, and actually made it easier for Iran to develop nuclear weapons. So now, hopefully, we can have full unity in NATO about supporting efforts to try to impose restrictions on Iran's nuclear programs.
And what about unity on Afghanistan? Obviously, it's America's longest war. NATO has been there supporting the United States, you know, ever since the 2001 intervention there. Now Trump has called for the removal of at least half American forces. It doesn't look like President Biden is ready to, commit huge numbers of extra forces. What is NATO going to do if it's left holding the bag in Afghanistan with only a minimal American footprint?
So no one wants to stay longer in Afghanistan than necessary. At the same time, we are all concerned about the possibility of Afghanistan once again becoming a safe haven for international terrorists. That's the reason why I went in, to prevent that from happening, and also to preserve the gains we have made over the last decades, not least for women and girls, their fundamental human rights. And that's a dilemma, and that's the reason why we have to be careful when we address when and how to reduce our presence in Afghanistan. Whatever we do, we have to do it in a coordinated way together. And there is now a peace process. It's a fragile process. There is no guarantee for success, but we all have to support those efforts because at the end of the day, it has to be an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned peace process. The Afghan has to create peace in their own country themselves. And therefore, the most important thing we can do is to support the peace process which now takes place.
Is there any moment in the next few days or weeks where NATO might have to make a decision about whether it's going to stay or not?
We are faced with a very difficult dilemma because in the US-Taliban agreement signed last year, it is stated that all international troops should be out of Afghanistan by the 1st of May. But this is conditions-based, so we need to assess the situation on the ground, whether Taliban delivers what they have promised, not least to break ties with international terrorists, including Al-Qaeda. We will have a defense ministerial meeting in February, next month. And of course, this will be one of the main issues. I also believe that when heads of state and government, including President Biden, meet at the NATO summit later this year, Afghanistan will be one of the main issues, because we have been there for close to a decade. It is difficult to stay, but it's also risky to leave too early. We went into Afghanistan together. We should adjust our presence there together. And when the time is right, of course, we should leave together.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, thank you for joining me from Brussels tonight.
Thank you so much.